I agree with Dee. We are very blessed with this music team. Let's take a deep breath of gratitude for music that lifts our hearts, opens our hearts, readies us to receive and to transmit healing and peace and compassion. Thinking of that infinity loop again, we give and we receive. It's all a part of the same loop of energy. In our daily word this morning, we heard the scripture that Jesus spoke to the people about the kingdom of God. So this morning we ponder that idea. What does it sound like to speak words that create the atmosphere and the energy of the kingdom of heaven? When we speak with one another, it is possible to create the kingdom of heaven right where we are in each moment. As we take another deep breath, each one in our own way, deepening into a commitment to speak words that help to create the kingdom of heaven, meaning the consciousness of forgiveness, the consciousness of compassion, the consciousness of reaching for understanding beyond all of our differences. As you take another deep breath, I invite you to listen to the words of Marshall Rosenberg, who designed this system that we now call nonviolent communication, based on the work of Gandhi. While studying the factors that affect our ability to stay compassionate, I was struck by the crucial role of language and our use of words. I have since deepened into an understanding that we human beings have the capacity to give from the heart, connecting us with ourselves and with each other. Connecting with ourselves and each other in a way that creates an environment of peace and healing. We have the capacity to connect with one another in our natural compassion. I use the term nonviolence as Gandhi used it, and simply put, it is our natural state of compassion when violence has subsided from our hearts. So I invite us to take a deep breath into that idea. When violence subsides from our hearts, what is left? When violence subsides from our language, what is left? When violence subsides from our actions, from our beliefs, what is left? So I invite each one of us to breathe into this capacity. We have the capacity to allow violence to subside from our hearts. We have the capacity to choose peace in our words, in our thoughts, in our actions. If violence has subsided from the hearts and minds of humankind, then what is left? So as a form of prayer, I invite each one of us to say a word or a phrase out loud enough so that we can all hear. Answering this question, when violence has subsided from our hearts, what is left?
Yes,
Violence has subsided from our hearts, then the peace that passes all understanding is present. Kingdom of heaven consciousness is present. The ability to make the next right and perfect step is present. Today our group prayer, our collective consciousness is holding this sacred idea that it is possible and essential that violence subsides from our hearts. And so in this place, in this moment, in this little part of the universe, we do our part to create heaven on earth. Namaste. I'm going to need a new clicker, I think.
This one here, Margaret. This one.
Possibly. I don't know. Oh, whoops. It's magic. Okay. Let's all say this together. The title of the talk today is What You Say Can Change Your World. Have you ever had a story where what you said changed your world for the better or the worse? Yes. Everybody had that experience? So, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was God. And the Word was made flesh. The Spirit of the living present came into manifestation. And that process has been going on for a long time. I want to invite you to think about something. What if we're living in the day and hour when we are spiritualizing our thoughts, our physicality, our thoughts, our actions in the world? What if we're living in the day and hour where the Word is not only being made flesh, but the physical form is being spiritualized and made into the Word? Just a what-if question. What if you and I are responsible now for spiritualizing every aspect of being in this world, this life, this experience of being spiritual beings in physical form? What if we're responsible for resurrecting and enlivening spirit in the flesh, in physical form? And what if, I'm just saying what if we have the capacity to release violence from the very cells and atoms of our being? What if we have the capacity to release violence from our DNA and from our encoding and from our generational patterns? It's just a what-if question. What does it feel like when we release violence from our hearts, from our minds? What does it feel like to release violence from our thinking? And I can hear one of you right now saying, well, I'm not violent. In this class that we're taking on crucial conversations, we are learning that we can be violent in our silence. We can say, peace, can release violence from our energy field, from our words, from our consciousness. What happens when we do that? We become miracle makers and we start doing all the things that Christ did and greater. Is it possible? So everything that's about love is real. This is a lifelong teaching for me when I had this experience. I was called to the home of a Pentecostal preacher, and he had been one of the best hellfire and brimstone preachers around. He did it really great. And I don't know why I was called there, at least I didn't really know him that well, but his family called me to his bedside. He's dying. And he looks up at me and he says, "Is anything about it real?" Now this man's dying. And as a good Sagittarius, /attorney, I could have asked, "Tell me what you mean with that question." But he was dying, in and out of consciousness. So I had to ask, what's the best answer here? I had to go to source and say, what do I say to this man who's dying? And he's asking me, is any of it real? And I heard myself as I spoke, because source energy will give you the words to speak even before you know the words to speak. What do I say to this man who's dying? And the words that came were, everything that's about love is real. Now, to an old Pentecostal minister, I know what he was worried about. He was worried about going to the place that he had preached about so often. The thing we speak about the most is the thing we create in our consciousness, and that's what we experience. Oy vey. No wonder he asked that question. Everything that's about love is real. Now, I don't know all that was going on in his soul and in his mind, but I can tell you, he relaxed. He didn't die in that moment, he died a few hours later, but his energy relaxed. Because that's the best news ever. Everything that's about unkindness and hatred is not real. The thing that lasts and is eternally there and enlivening us is the power of love. Period, paragraph. As David says, end of discussion. So, think about that in your life. Everything that's about love is real. So, crucial conversation, what does that mean? That means the stakes are high, the opinions differ, and the emotions are strong. We've all been there. And in this class, we're learning that how we handle these conversations, there's usually 3 different styles. We avoid them. I do that. We can avoid them. We can disappear until the conflict is past, and then come back in and say, well, I held the peace while all of you were in conflict. We avoid them, we face them, and handle these conversations poorly. Anybody ever done that? Anybody ever walked away going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. To my 45-year-long friend, I just said that. Daily. Or we face them, we enter into them, we hold these conversations as a crucial, healing, transformative energy. We can work with this to help create really great outcomes so that wholeness can be revealed for the whole community. That's a powerful thing. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. That God consciousness, our words are powerful. And we have used them well, really well. We've also used them to tear down and be cruel, right? So generally, we do this. We can digress into threats and name calling. I'm trying real hard to think of a current present-day example. Anyway, you'll work on that. So we digress into threats and name calling, or we revert to silent fuming. I have nothing to say on this. Or we speak openly, honestly, and effectively. That's what we're learning. Crucial conversation. It's a powerful place to help create healing. So here's what Marshall Rosenberg asked. And he asked these two questions when he was in his late teens, living in New York City and being there for some pretty scary race riots. And he asked these two questions. What happens to disconnect us from our compassionate nature? What happens? Leading us to behave violently. What happens in us? But with that question, he asked the next really important question. What allows some people to stay connected to their compassionate nature? What allows some of us, more than others, to stay connected with a place of kindness or hoping for the best solution for the whole community? What helps some of us stay connected with that? And this has been his whole life work, answering these two questions. And he helped bring into the world this nonviolent communication, again, based on the work of Gandhi. Now, let's take a deep breath. Was Gandhi perfect in every way, never had a flaw, never did any human wacko stuff? No. Gandhi was a flesh and blood human being who did some wacky stuff in his human experience. He also was a transformer, bringing an idea into the world that we had the capacity to take care of our issues and problems in a way that didn't create more violence in the world. He had this idea. Because sometimes people go, well, I don't know what you expect of me. I'm not Gandhi. Well, even Gandhi wasn't Gandhi. Even Gandhi wasn't the God-man, no flaws that the world has made him out to be. He was a man that made some wacky decisions sometimes. Sometimes people say, well, what do you expect? I'm not Jesus. Well, let's take a deep breath. We are the people of the Christ consciousness. So we have this capacity to do this thing that Marshall Rosenberg is talking about. We can stay connected with our compassionate nature. But we talk ourselves out of being able to do that. You made me mad. Is that a true statement? Somebody said this to me this past week. Nobody can steal my joy from me. And it's also true, nobody can make you mad.
You give away your power when you assume that other people.
You give away your own power when you assume that other people are doing things to you. It comes from inside.
So how many of us have said this, maybe just this morning? They made me so mad. She made me so mad. He really upset me. So I'll take a deep breath. In nonviolent communication, we stop blaming others for any misery that we're experiencing. Oh man, that was half my shtick. To blame other people. Now what am I going to do? So Jesus, there's a story that in the Holy Land, there's a pool called Bethesda. It's a place where people went to receive their healing. There was a pool there it was the original hot tub of the Holy Land. The angel, it said, we're told, the angel would come down and trouble the waters. Now there's a whole metaphysical teaching we can do on that. Right now we've got some troubled water. And we can blame it on many things. What if, I'm just asking, what if spirit's involved? What if the, quote, troubling of the waters, the stirring stuff up, we were singing Bob Marley earlier, stir it up. Things have been stirred up. What if God's in all of that?
God is always in it.
God's in always everything.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of a place is this?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh my goodness. So there was a man sitting at this pool, these healing waters. He'd been sitting there every day for about 30 years. And every time the waters would be stirred up by the angel, the man couldn't get there fast enough. This is his belief. He couldn't get up to make it to the water, to be the first one in. because you got to be the first one in the hot tub to get the real healing energy. That was his belief. If I could only get to the healing waters, I would be healed. Because Jesus walks by and says, what's going on? And the man said, well, I've been sitting here for 30 years because I have to get to the water to get healed, but I can't get there fast enough, so I'm still sitting here. I can't walk because I can't get to the healing waters fast enough to be healed, and I'm still sitting here because I can't get to the water. You see how we get caught in the loop? I can't be in the awakened consciousness because they are making my life miserable. And so Jesus, he found a way to change the energy. And that's really the power of the spoken word. He changed the energy. He invited the man to step into another consciousness. And he simply said this, rise, take up your bed and walk. The man followed instructions, something that all of us are still learning to do. The man followed the instruction of Spirit, rise, pick up your bed, pick up your old belief that you can't be healed unless you do it a certain way. Pick up that old belief, that old consciousness that's got you convinced that you don't have the capacity to even rise up. Pick up and get out of here. Go forth and walk, live, be the higher consciousness. Get off of this pity bed. Get off of this place where you think you don't have the power to move into your healing. Or as my sister says, she channels Holy Spirit sometimes. She says, stop that. Don't do that. Stop convincing yourself that you don't have the power to rise up and take your old beliefs and walk away from that situation that has you convinced you are less than, and rise up into the, not only the I am enough place, but I am more than enough. Does that make sense?
Yes,
The power of the spoken word. But here's the deal. That man, the story doesn't say faith rose up in him and he entered the miraculous kingdom of heaven consciousness and he knew he was healed and so he rose up and he walked. It doesn't say that. He simply followed instructions. There was the healing moment, and Jesus said, you need to take advantage of this healing moment that's happening right now. You need to step into this. So let's take a deep breath. The healing moment is upon us. The healing moment is upon us. And some of us convince ourselves that we are not able to move off of this old belief. This is the way it's always been. Human beings have always had violence in their heart. Human beings have always been unkind to each other. This is the way it is. And there's a few among us. What if we could rise up out of that old consciousness of violence? What if we could rise and walk away from that? What if we could walk into the full capacity of who we are? Just asking, what if? So let's start here. We start with heart, and we take a long, hard look at ourselves, because if we can't get ourselves right, we're not going to get our dialogue right. So here's the clincher. We got to start with ourselves first. It's so much easier to blame them. But this system invites us to take a long, hard look at ourselves first. I might be involved in the conflict. The way I'm thinking, what I'm saying, or what I'm not saying, I just might be involved in the conflict. So, the first step to achieving the results we really want to fix the problem, well, we have to stop believing that others are the source of all that ails us. Let's take a deep breath. Everything that we see that's not right about them, I mean, we know they've got a lot of problems. Everything we see that's not right about them is going on in some form within us. I tell you, it's a fabulous class. This room is full of brave people who's taken this class. So Buddhism proposes, we're almost done. Buddhism proposes that people are basically good. Now, for all of us raised in the Judeo-Christian traditions, we were basically taught that we were born in sin and we needed to be saved from our original badness. There's another view. People are basically good. This is what this teacher says. Living in stressful times demands that we awaken our enlightened qualities. Everybody agree with that? Yes. Living in stressful times, this would be a really good time to awaken our enlightened qualities. We can withdraw when confronted by difficulties, or we can be brave and stop cowering from our basic goodness. Turn to somebody and say, stop being afraid of your own goodness. Stop being afraid of your own goodness. Stop being afraid of your own goodness. So psychology has traditionally looked at what's wrong with us. I'm going to invite us to look at what's good about us, because here's the deal. There's power in the belief that we are the light. There's power in the awareness that we do have basic goodness. We don't need anybody else to tell us we're not good enough, because we'll tell ourselves that. We'll tell ourselves that all day long. And then turn to somebody else and say, well, you're the light of the world. Nonviolence for self and others, allowing the positive within you to emerge. So that here's the bottom line. There's a natural state of compassion in us when violence has subsided from our hearts. It's not something we have to go to a seminar and learn about. It's not something we have to go see the Pope and get a special dispensation. You, after all, are good. We don't have to do that, because it's already in us. But what we say next can change our world. If we keep talking about our less than-ness, that's what we're creating more of. If we create more transformative language in our world that speaks of our goodness, then we're more able to go to the dialogue table and speak with our alleged enemies. I'm not going to be able to create peace if I'm holding you in a place of not being good. It's a practice. Everything that's about love is true. So I invite you to touch your own heart. Some of you are already doing that. It's just instinctive. It's just built into us. Oh, we even say it. Oh my goodness. Everybody say that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It was there all along. I forgot. I forgot my goodness. Oh my goodness. So in this moment, we give thanks for our goodness, and we give thanks that the words we say can change our world. The words we say to ourselves, the words we say to one another, the words we say about one another, the words we say about our organizations, our communities. We want to say the words that increase the possibilities of kindness and understanding. We are a vibrant, loving, abundant, prosperous community of peace and light. We have the capacity to express our goodness in mighty ways. We, the human species, have the capacity to express our goodness in powerful ways. you one more time. Oh